Hello and welcome to the first ever show of Holly's Hotspur Huddle Insights from the Dugout. And it's a brand new show because I am joined by the lovely Wes, as we always know on a Wednesday. But today we're going to be doing some tactical analysis. How are you, Wes?
I am all good, thank you, Holly. Yeah, really excited by the obviously the prospect of the new show, and yeah, grateful to you for giving me the opportunity to kind of do my thing, as always. And yeah, Werner on the dance floor, Dragger's Sheen, medical pretty much done. Romero wants to play on Sunday as well for the mighty Spurs. Madison's back next week. Yeah, everything seems to be moving in a pretty good direction. So it is a good time to be a Spurs fan today, put it that way.
Indeed, and it's a Wednesday as well, so it's middle of the week, so it's even bloody better to give us a little bit of a lift. But yeah, we've got a lot to talk about, definitely in Timo Werner style tonight. But before we get started, obviously tonight's show is sponsored by Kofa, so far away, Wes.
Yeah, so kick-off Football Academy Milton Keynes, or Kofa MK, run lots and lots of different football sessions in the Milton Keynes area, and providing a lot and giving back a lot to the local community. So we have lots and lots of different sessions that run on a weekly basis. As you can see, we've got loads and loads of one-to-one sessions that take place. They're usually done on a Sunday over at Power League Milton Keynes. We run mini kickers for Willem Football Club, as well as Newport Pagnell Town, who in the last 2 years, their first team have gone on to reach the FA Vars final at Wembley. We have our own boys academy, which girls are also welcome to, I have to say, which runs on a Friday night as well. And we do lots of other things as well, such as our skill centre, holiday camps, birthday parties, and a hell of a lot more. So if you are interested, and if you have a child in the Milton Keynes community or the Milton Keynes area, please get in touch with us. Boom.
I'm loving it. That's so good. But yes, tonight's show is obviously sponsored. Every Wednesday is going to be sponsored by Kofa. So if you know someone or a young child or an older child that wants some coaching, please do get in touch with Wes. I'm going to ignore Jason's comment with is there a kick-off academy in Wimbledon? We'll move on from that one very quickly. But no, welcome to everybody that's joining in. But Wes, let's start things off, because as we all know, Timo Werner is obviously the new name on everyone's lips at the moment. Before we get into obviously the tactical analysis, I kind of want to get your kind of take on him coming into club. So what do you make of his welcome?
Yeah, do you know what? This is going to sound really strange, because I don't think there's been any time that we've signed somebody that's played for Chelsea in the first place. They don't tend to deal with us these days, naturally, because we absolutely hate each other. But I've never really seen a signing like this that has got the fan base so excited, considering the position that he held at Leipzig. Had a really difficult time in his second spell at Leipzig, and has fallen to sort of fourth choice striker. And usually when you would say, oh, you're signing a fourth choice striker, you're going, oh, brilliant, here we go. But I think, the fact that Ange has nailed his hat on him, said that he wants him. I think that, alongside potentially what he's done previously, because I look at his record at Chelsea and everybody's going, it wasn't the best. But when you actually sort of deep it, you go, what was it, 93 games or something like that, 20 odd goals, 20 odd assists. You go, well, actually, it's not that bad. And I think his time at Chelsea, there was a lot of things going on, a lot of change. Obviously, COVID affected, I think, everybody as well. But I genuinely think that, like I say, with the lot of change that was going on at Chelsea, I think they'd spent like over 250 million when he arrived. So it's going to be a little bit unsettling for any player, really. But for me, to see somebody like Werner coming in, and he's got lightning pace. And I think he's going to really suit the way that we play, and is going to suit our system fantastically well.
And that brilliantly leads us on to obviously the next bit, and that's how we're going to dissect how we think Werner the Burner is going to play. Because obviously we've got a little tactical board, and yes, I'm going to let you fire away in terms of where do you think he's going to be best suited, obviously, in Ange's system.
Okay, so usually I think in his time at Leipzig with Nagelsmann, I think, what was it? They played almost like a 3-5-2. a lot of the time, they played with a front two. So I'm just going to move these two counters here. And it was almost like in this part of the pitch here, Werner had the license to pretty much drop here. Actually, he's the number 9. He had the license to drop in, but then also go in behind. And Nagelsmann really turned him into sort of like a bit more of a rounded forward. Yes, he's got pace, and we know all about that, but it was more of his ability to drop into pockets, find different spaces, and then combine with those around him. That I think then caught the attention of Chelsea. Obviously, when he went to Chelsea, he sort of operated a little bit more out wide on that left-hand side, almost coming in, if you like, off that left, and operating in this sort of channel that we see here between centre back and full back a lot of the time. So making those darting runs from out to in, and trying to get on the end of things a little bit similar. Some people would argue to a bit like what Henry used to do in terms of drifting out wide and then coming in. He did have obviously a spell as a 9 at Chelsea. Didn't quite go to plan. I think the spaces that he was trying to occupy was then really filled with the likes of Havertz being in and around him, Mason Mount trying to be in and around and getting in his space. Whereas I think from a Tottenham point of view now, as you can see, I've sort of set us up in a 4-3-3 here. Obviously, you'll have Basuma as a 6, but Maddison in this 10 position here likes to get deep, get on the ball, and try and feed players through. And I think that will really, really help Werner as a 9. I think his versatility, obviously, as we've mentioned there, to play on the left as well will really, really help. So he could dovetail, if you like, with Richarlison in games, and then potentially Son as well when Son's back from the Asia Cup. And then that would leave, your sort of what would traditionally be your number 7, which would be a Kulusevski or Brennan Johnson, to really hug the touchline, try and stretch the pitch. And then we should see Werner, like I say, operating in this type of area here. And in those sort of spaces, really, like I said, I think he'll have a bit more freedom to drop in, get on the ball, and if he is allowed to turn, like I say, you've got the pace of Brennan Johnson, you've got the creativity of Kulusevski to try and get in behind, and then even Richie or Sonny on the other side. And let's not forget Manor Solomon as well. He can operate both sides, and he's lightning quick. So yeah, there's a few options there for us, and I think Ange is going to probably utilise him really, really well.
No, and I think that's the thing. I think because of his versatility, it's almost like he could kind of, like you say, play in all of those 3 positions, as we know. But it's interesting to see, obviously, where he's played previously and whether Ange will utilise that. Because obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Richarlison not necessarily getting into the right places at the right time. But do you think with Werner and his experience, like you said, at Chelsea and previous clubs, him playing in that 9 is potentially going to be more of a threat than Richarlison, would you say?
I think I would probably argue that Werner is perhaps better with his back to goal than Richarlison. I think there's been a lot of times when the ball's gone into Richie as a 9 and his first touch hasn't been great, probably likened to Lukaku at times. But yeah, I think Werner is probably better at just holding up the ball a little bit more, bringing others into play. Obviously, we highlighted earlier that work with Nagelsmann, that really sort of set him on that, almost that world stage, if you like, and like I say, brought it to the attention of Chelsea, and that's why they spent the money they did on him. I think it's more from I think why Tottenham fans could potentially be slightly worried and concerned would be Werner's work in and around the box. I think a lot of his goals sort of come in and around here. You talk about zone 14. We talk about zone 14 on the pitch as coaches, and it's where the majority of goals are scored. So it is in and around the box. But I think that's where, like I say, the majority of his goals for Leipzig have come. I think what we need from Werner is just to be a little bit more clinical in these areas, in and around the box. A couple of touches, bang. A little bit similar, I'd argue, to Jermaine Defoe back in the day. Absolute predator in and around the box. And you sort of knew every time that the ball was going to Defoe, he was going to at least get a shot on target. So, yeah, I think Werner's best work is just outside the box in terms of his shooting ability. But that might help us, actually, because I think anybody that's watched Tottenham this season has been really, really frustrated with our work in and around the box. We've got into some really, really good positions, and we've tried to take that extra pass, almost tried to walk the ball into the net. So I think from a Timo Werner point of view, if he could just be that little bit greedy and look to get shots off early, that element of surprise in terms of the goalkeeper not letting them get set, and things like that, sort of in and around the box, I think would be a real asset, because, like I say, we've pretty much tried to walk the ball into the net at times when it's not really been needed, where all you're looking for is for somebody to just get half a yard and shift and shoot, really. So, again, I've seen quite a few of Werner's goals recently in particular, and he does like to get into that sort of half a yard element and then shoot. And he does score some bloody good goals as well, off the back of it. So yeah, I think mainly in and around the penalty box is where Spurs would look to him to perhaps do the business, but in and around that box, like I say, that zone 14 area on the pitch would be ideal, I think, for Spurs and Timo Werner himself, because he's got a good hit on him.
Definitely, and it's interesting, like you say, because it drives me nuts when we try and walk the ball into the net. So it would be nice if he does actually manage to pull the trigger a bit earlier than the normal that we've been seeing from Spurs as of late. And I know we've kind of dissected the other way he's going to play, like, on the pitch, in terms of whether he's going to play out wide or you think he's going to play more centrally. And I know that obviously, going slightly off topic, we have got Man United next, and it'd just be interesting because obviously he has signed for the club. I don't know whether he's got clearance to play on Sunday, but if he was to play on Sunday, how do you think we're going to kind of set up? Do you think? So obviously Mickey van der Ven is obviously back as well, so that probably means we're going to play that high line back again because he's got the pace in the back. So how would you set up Spurs at the weekend?
Right, let's look at a sort of in possession, really. So obviously, Big Vic in goal. Porro usually is really high, sort of up here when we're in possession. We're probably going to have Dragoshin, hopefully. Hopefully that gets done. If not, it's probably Emerson Royale. And Mickey van der Ven, again, sort of up here. Your doggy, again, pretty much in that pocket there with Porro. Then in this sixth position here, Rodrigo Bentancur, which is just an absolute cheat code in the six. If anybody has watched him in the last couple of games, he's just been unbelievable, and it's just so good to have him back. See, midfield now, we don't really have too many options, so I would assume Oliver Skip would play. I know Lo Celso's got a bit of a tight hamstring, so I would anticipate Oliver Skip potentially playing if fit, because I know there might be some question marks on him. I would then have Kulusevski in this number 10 position, sort of allowing him to sort of roam around a little bit. Like I say, we know Porro, your doggy, love to play and operate in these inside pockets here, and I think the reasoning behind that is, as us coaches, we want to occupy. So the pitch is split up into sort of three main lanes. Obviously, you've got your left side, your middle zone, and the right zone. And then a certain Spanish and Catalonian coach came in and created this thing called half spaces, called Pep Guardiola. So this is where, that famous Barcelona team, they would have your Xavi and your Iniesta occupying these spaces here, and it was a half space. So you'll see City now trying to occupy it with the likes of Alvarez, Bernardo Silva, and people like that. For us, it's our fullbacks, which is really strange. So with that in mind, I would then have probably Brennan Johnson here. I would have Werner through the middle, and then Richarlison out on the left. I would say. So this is sort of how I would almost envisage as playing in possession and almost setting up in that way. So Spurs are the blue counters, kind of as we look. Say, for example, if Mickey's on the ball there, and stuff like that. So that's how I would anticipate we look in possession, a little something like that. Potentially out of possession, it's quite interesting. So obviously it's a bit more situational. So for example, I'm just going to put, say, the Man United number 6 here, which I anticipate will be Kobe Mainoo, who's done really, really well for United in the last few games. And then, to be fair, from when I've watched us out of possession, it's been quite interesting because the wingers still stay relatively high and wide. They might look to track back if the fullbacks from United are looking to advance on. So I anticipate Dallow's going to start for United on Sunday. So if it's Richarlison, got to do his work, defensive work there. And whoever's starting at left back, again, I would anticipate Brennan Johnson doing some defensive work there. But as we know, Spurs are going to play with a really, really high line and look to catch United offside. We still have to be aware of it though, because they do have some good pace in forward areas with the likes of Rashford and Garnacho and players like that. Højlund isn't a slouch either. So again, it's something that we're going to really need to be conscious of and wary of coming into Sunday.
No, and it's like I say, it's interesting, like seeing you move the counters and things in terms of where we're going to position you see. Because obviously, for me, and it's probably not for many people, but for me, it's quite nice to see you break it down. And again, see how we're going to set up at the weekend. But like I say, it'd be interesting to see whether he chucks Werner in straight away. But I think, like you said, I think it's probably going to be the best kind of option, right? Obviously, if he gets clearance, I think Nick said by 12 p.m. on Friday. I think the tweet or something last night said something that we're waiting for clearance or so. I don't know if was that true? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's something that I think most clubs sort of put anyway. I don't anticipate there to be any hiccups with Werner and international clearance. I think it's just a bit of a process that clubs have to go through when signing a player from overseas, pretty much. So yeah, I can't see there being any problems. Obviously, work permit, because that's into play now for football clubs. So yeah, obviously he does play quite regularly for Germany as well, does Timo Werner, or has done previously. So again, I can't see a work permit being an issue or anything like that. So yeah, I anticipate that we will have Timo Werner in the squad for Sunday's game.
No, I like it. It is really interesting, like I say, to dissect it all. I know we spoke about Timo Werner. I know we've touched a little bit, obviously, on the likes of Richarlison. But I kind of want you to break down, kind of like how these inverted wingers kind of work in terms of how they work when we're kind of in attack and how they're probably going to work against United, kind of like what Ange does every week, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so inverted wingers, a position I liked very much when I played. So, I'm just gonna have sort of the black counters here who will represent Man United, just defending the width of their box to make life a bit easier. I think, again, Porro, your doggy, occupying those half spaces in there. So what you're looking and what we're trying to create on either side of the pitch is an overload. So you want to try and create these 2v1 situations. Now, usually it would be the other way around. So when the first kind of craze of inverted wingers was a thing, it was the wingers starting wide and then moving into the pitch, into these pockets, into the half spaces here, and you would usually have your 10 there to kind of knit it together. Whereas now with the trend of the inverted fullback, it's kind of swapped. So that, as I said there, the fullback occupies those half spaces, but usually it would be the winger that would come in and the fullback would go around the outside to create your width. But like I say, now it's pretty much opposite. So yeah, again, you're trying to create these overloads in the wider areas. Can you get 2v1 out wide? So for example, if your doggy was to play it out to Richarlison, usually you would see your doggy kind of making this overlapping run around the outside here. But what we've seen, especially from your doggy, I think even more so than Porro, is the straight run going into the box to then potentially try and drag somebody out. So it could be, dragging the fullback or, a midfield player to track that run. Maybe dragging a centre back a little bit to potentially defend a bit more of their box, to then allow the winger to come into the pitch. I know Kulusevski does it really well on the other side, where he will dip in and then try and deliver across towards the back post. Not so much, I think, Heung-min Son. Heung-min Son's very much one that will want to come into the pitch here. He's done it for years, and then maybe try and curl one, or I think we're seeing a little bit more, especially with Son, in terms of those combinations with your doggy. And then when your doggies in these types of situations here, you've got the defenders really defending sort of spaces, not faces, as we say in PE. So they're really defending the space there, and then you're looking at your cutbacks then towards the edge of the box. So you're looking at, say, for example, here Richarlison, your player here, Son or whoever that would be, previously, and then Kulusevski's actually sort of hung out. What I would like to see him do is just attack that space towards the back post a little bit more. But then what we tend to do is get to this point here. It goes to Son. It then comes out here. And then all of a sudden, Kulusevski's still out here. It will then go to Porro. We then try and go the other way. Again, it doesn't quite work. And we just end up recycling the ball a lot more. And if it's not on to go forward, we end up going all the way back and then trying to play through again. But the idea is for the wingers to stay high and wide and cheat, to then give the fullback a decision to make. Am I going to go with my player and leave big gaps between myself and my centre half and my nearest centre back? Or am I going to stay narrow? And then if the ball, for example, Porro on it here, if it was to switch over to the other side, you're then looking at, right, okay, well, as that ball's travelling, we're going to travel over and we're going to slide across as a defensive unit. So, yeah, but like I say, the idea of it is, can we create overloads in wide areas and create 2v1 situations, but then make the most of it when we're in that attacking third of the pitch?
That's excellent as well to see it. I think Dan's a bit lost, man. But bless him. But no, I like visually seeing it because it's all like you say. It's so annoying when we recycle the ball all the time. And I know you need to recycle now and again, but not all the time when we're right near the edge of the box. But do you think that's kind of what happened against Burnley? Do you think? We just weren't clinical enough?
I don't think it was necessarily just against Burnley. I think a lot of teams are finding it, and I even watched bits of the Chelsea game last night against Borough. And what you find is, especially when you're playing against a possession-based team and you've not got the quality to compete with them and go toe to toe with them, you'll see a lot of this kind of, okay, we're going to defend our shape and defend the width of the box. It's now down to you as the team then who are better than us really to break us down. So again, that's why we look, and the top teams look to dominate, especially out wide, and how can we outscore the opposition in certain areas of the pitch. So yeah, I think what you'll find a lot of the time is you'll see a lot of this. Have you got me back? Hello?
No, you're back.
I'm back. Fair play. Fair play. Right. So what you'll see a lot of the time is a lot of sideways kind of movement with the ball. You're going to go from one side into here, into there, and then back round the pitch. Usually when it gets into the 6 here, you're looking at someone like Rodri, for example, at City. He's got that capability to find that pass over the top there and just miss out a couple of players. Whereas I think we saw it a lot under Poch in particular, especially in that last season. It would go here, for example, then it would go all the way around the pitch, and it was just really kind of boring and slow to sort of watch, because we didn't have that player or the movement ahead of the ball to really penetrate through the opposition.
No, that's excellent. Like you said, you're right in a sense that sometimes it just, and under Poch, like you said, towards the later stages of the era with him, like you said, it was pretty much that. Before I pick up on Darren's point that I've highlighted, I want to talk about Carl, because Carl has been a 19th month membership to the channel. So thank you very much, Carl. And yes, I will make sure that I say hello to Ledley for you. But no, I appreciate obviously the support that you've shown to me, Carl. So thank you very much. Big up yourself. And I want to obviously pick up on Darren's comment, which was, I think we look more balanced when Brendan is on the right side. Even if his cross is hit and miss, we look more fluid. Is that something that you think that's just because of Brendan's game? Obviously, you see him getting high up the pitch a lot of the time, and he has got a lot of pace to beat players. It's just sometimes that final ball, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for me, the thing with Brennan Johnson is this. So centre back has the ball here, for example. Porro is in his pocket there. We've got players in there. That player is sort of there. And you're looking here at Brennan Johnson to show feet. Usually, when you would have your fullbacks that were sort of high and wide, this would be the option. The first option for the centre back would be to play that pass there. So you're looking at someone like Romero playing into Porro and then Porro looking to attack. Because we play with the inverted fullback and they're playing really high, the space now is for Brennan Johnson. Now, the thing that's frustrated me a lot, and from what I've seen a lot of Brennan Johnson, is this: he doesn't know when to come short for the ball and when to spin in behind. So that's been my biggest issue with Brennan Johnson. Don't get me wrong, if, for example, there's that space to go in behind and it's clipped over the top, and Brennan Johnson gets on the end of it and then looks to put a ball into the box, I think he's been okay. I really do, and I think you can see what he's doing. Yes, the execution might not always be there, but the idea is there. And as a coach, you can't coach ideas. But I think more often than not, he's looking into the right area to play the ball. It's just that execution, like I say. But the thing for me with Brennan Johnson is actually, when that centre back's got the ball there, um, you know, can I look to come short? Maybe bring that fullback with me, and then Porro might look to go a little bit higher, or if it's Porro that's just in here slightly deeper, or whatever. Wingers need a lot of double movement, so they need to come short to go in behind, or they need to go in behind to then come short. And I think if Brennan Johnson starts adding that to his game, and then looking to receive on the half turn and then driving at his fullback, I think we'll see a bit more of a rounded winger, which is something that I know we've seen a bit of a death of, sort of the orthodox winger, if you like, just somebody getting onto the ball and just going at their fullback. I think probably one of the last ones that we saw in a Spurs shirt was Aaron Lennon, who would literally just get the ball and just drive at his fullback every time, and it wouldn't really matter for him if he was successful or not. It was just, right, I'm just going to get the ball and I'm just going to keep going at you, and eventually he'd tire them out, and then get a bit of success off the back of it. But I agree in the sense that we look more balanced when Johnson's on the right hand side. But like I say, I think it's more knowing when to come short and when to go in behind for me when I've seen Brennan Johnson that is frustrating me the most, because then when he doesn't do it, it's like, what impact are you having on the game? And then what are you doing to try and get involved and help us out as a team and as an attacking unit?
No, it's interesting you said it because obviously he has had a lot, well, not a lot, but he has had a bit of stick in the fan base. And I don't think it was necessarily warranted, but when you kind of break it down like that, you can see it's not stick, it's more of an improvement. Like he's definitely got it within him. He's just got to maybe add that to his game. But it was really interesting to obviously dissect, obviously, on the wing, and you kind of see on the other side that I don't think it's necessarily that much of an issue. Would you say on the other wing? Would you say the likes of Sonny when he plays out that side, he's kind of added to his game that there is a bit more there, if that makes sense? Would you agree, or would you say that maybe Sonny needs to add that maybe to his game? Or do you think just Sonny is just Sonny and Sonny can do what he wants? Whatever he touches is magic.
I wouldn't quite go that far, but I think obviously Sonny's a little bit more experienced. But what I have seen from Son in particular is when he does come short, and I think he's done this quite a lot in his time as a Tottenham player, is when he does come short, he then looks to turn, but turn almost in the opposite direction to where you would ideally want him to turn to. So he's got his fullback here. The ball would go into him, and he would receive. He would almost face back to goal, but then receive with his right foot. But because the fullback has just tried to cheat him a little bit, they're going that side, to kind of stop him coming on the inside, and he'll just go, okay, I'll just take you down the outside. But he'll receive off his right foot first, and then he's away. I do think Son's role has changed, especially out wide under Ange, because he's very much now high and wide. Don't get too involved in the build-up play. Don't get too involved in here. Stay out there. we'll get the ball to you, and then once we get the ball out to you, you then do your thing. But I think that's also the case for Kulusevski here, Brennan Johnson, Richarlison when he's played out on the left as well. So, I mentioned before about the wingers cheating, staying high and wide. That is kind of it live, if you like. So they're almost told now to wait for the ball to come to them, and then once we get them, isolate them with their fullback or with a little bit of space, then they can go in and do their thing. So I think that's where Son's role in particular has been adapted and has changed this season compared to obviously previously. I think under Mourinho and Conte, it was very much for Son to get in between. So we mentioned about Werner doing it. Son was very much that get in between here, and a ball over the top or a Kane through pass, get on the end of things, and then finish them off. Under Poch, it was very much obviously when he played up top with Lucas Moura, it was just to combine there. But then again, when he played out wide, it was very much, can you try and get involved in certain aspects of play? Whereas now, like I say, it's very much you stay out there, we'll get the ball to you, and then once that's done, once you get the ball, you go and do your thing.
No, and that it is interesting, like I say, to break that down. And I like what you said, obviously, of the wingers of before in terms of they will take players on, and it is very evident. I think at Spurs we don't necessarily have a player that will go 1v1 with someone out on the wing. I think that's very, like you say, it's very rare to see now in a Spurs shirt. Be interesting, like you say, if maybe Ange can mix it up. But you know what, Ange is doing his thing, so I'll let him do his thing. I'm not fussed about that. Ange ball is the Nets kind of thing. We've got a question from Darren again, and says, do you think Werner can replicate Son's movement? I don't know what the end word says.
And what I want to say, energy.
Energy. There you go. He's put it in energy.
I think. Listen, I think it's something that can potentially, I wouldn't say replicate being the right word or copy, but you might see Werner doing similar movements to Son in that respect. But I think that Werner's definitely capable, especially if he plays on that left-hand side. If he plays through the middle, again, it will be really, really interesting, because I think one of his big criticisms at Chelsea was that, bloody hell, he doesn't know the offside like the offside rule. But I think with the way that we're going to play, Andrew just say, look, keep making those runs, because if you time one right and you get in behind, then go and finish it and be really, really clinical. So I'm not too fussed if Werner gets 10 offsides a game, because on that 11th run that he'll make, and if he's onside, you'd like to think hopefully that we're going to be in behind whichever opposition we play, and then we're gonna hopefully score some goals. But I definitely see almost some similarities, if you like, between Werner and Son, which is good. Obviously, both can play out on the left, both can play through the middle. And do I think Werner's a good bit of business? I think I mentioned earlier, I think it's a cracking bit of business, to be honest. On loan, 6 months, try before you buy. We've got the option to get him for up to 20 million euros. When you look at it in today's market, absolute bargain. Still at a good age, still got a few years in him. So yeah, I just think it's a cracking deal all round. But yeah, I definitely see some similarities between Timo Werner and Heung-min Son.
And I think it's the fact as well, like I say, he's going to be hungry. He wants to prove himself that he can do it in the Premier League. I know you mentioned some stats earlier in the assists and goals he scored for Chelsea, and they weren't amazing, they weren't glowing, but they definitely added something, obviously, to the team. And at the moment where we've got the likes of Richarlison sadly missing opportunities, I know he's been clinical in the previous 5 games before Burnley, but it's always like we need another someone that's going to be clinical, and hopefully Werner, with his point to prove, is gonna do that. But hey, Wes, it's been a really nice thing to dissect this all tonight. Before obviously we say our goodbyes, etc., etc., I wanna one more time talk about the fact that this show is sponsored by Kofa. So Wes, can you explain to everybody what Kofa is, sort of thing?
Yeah, so Kickoff Football Academy Milton Keynes, it's my own football coaching business in the Milton Keynes area, Dele Alli country for people that don't know where Milton Keynes is. And we offer a range of football sessions for young boys and girls in the Milton Keynes area and in the Milton Keynes community. We do lots of things such as one-on-one sessions, mini kickers through Willem Football Club, and also Newport Pagnell Town Football Club. We also run their Wildcat session as well for young girls for them. We also have our own academy that we run once a week on a Friday night, where we look to bridge the gap between grassroots and elite level football. And we also do things such as holiday camps, birthday parties, team coaching sessions, and school sessions as well. So, you know, PE provision, after school sessions, the lot. And I think, Holly, that is pretty much about it.
Love it. So yeah, this show is obviously sponsored by Kofa, so make sure you check them out. And Wes, that kind of leaves us to say our goodbyes. Before we do so, I want to talk about, obviously, hopefully we can get a win against Man United, and hopefully next Wednesday we can dissect some Werner ball on the show, because that would be quite nice, and potentially any other things that go down against Man United. But Wes, it's been an amazing first show on the Hotspur Huddle. It's been really interesting to listen to you talk about dissecting how we're going to play, how players are going to set up. So without further ado, let everybody know where you can find you, and fire away.
So yeah, thank you again, Holly. Really, really good to give me the opportunity to do my thing. I really, really enjoyed breaking some things down, and hopefully giving some people a bit more of an insight into some things that might happen. You know, sort of usual things that would go down. So Twitter is at Wezo10, unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account, as everybody knows by now, I am sure. And then I'm also on Instagram is at Wezo32, usually at a Spurs game. I will be at Old Trafford on Sunday as well. So if you are going, anybody that is watching or listening, yeah, come and say hello. I would really, really like that. And yeah, we'll probably get some chants on the go as well. So if anybody wants to join in, fantastic. And then, as you mentioned there, Kickoff Football Academy across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So it's at Co4MK or Kickoff Football Academy across your social media platforms there. So at Co4MK or Kickoff Football Academy for those. And yeah, Holly, I believe that is it.
No, it's been good. Honestly, Wes, it's been, like the guys have said in the chat, it's been great to have your analysis on the game. And it is actually really nice to see it move as well. So thank you for that. But yeah, Hotspur Huddle will be a new show every Wednesday. We might maybe mix it up with a membership show like we used to do, Wes, but we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, it's been a short but sweet one. I think there's only so much tactics you can fit into one evening, but no, it's been excellent. Like I say, if you're watching, make sure you subscribe, make sure you go follow Wes and Kickoff Academy on all the socials, and until next time, come on you Spurs.